Welcome, everyone, to our next segment. I am really excited about our next guest today. She's someone that I have known practically my whole life. I'm so honored that she is here with us at the Savvy Girl Summit. She is such an inspiration and a very, very gentle spirit. I've always known her to be that way. I'm interested in hearing more about her entrepreneurial journey as a woman of faith and of industry. Her name is April McKie, and she's a Detroit native like myself. She's a business coach and an attorney. This is a woman that you want to get to know. And we're going to do a little bit of that today. So without further ado, Savvy Girl Summit, please help me welcome April McKie.
Hey, Faith. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for your invitation.
Even though we've known each other like forever, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's a whole lot of stuff that you have accomplished and that God has blessed you to be able to do. So I'm excited to be able to talk about that today with you.
I'm super excited as well. Yes, we have known each other our whole lives. I remember you as a little bitty girl, and I'm only, a few years older. I'm honored, to speak with you on this platform. You've always been a person of integrity, a very kind person. And so I'm honored. So thank you.
Oh, that was so sweet. April is very multifaceted. So I was trying to be a little strategic in what I named this segment, but what I came up with was driven by mission, guided by courageous faith, and
Ooh.
grounded in practicality.
Oh, girl,
That's
you just described my whole life in like three sentences. That's awesome. Yes.
so here's how I want to start our conversation today. I know you're like a huge fan of Oprah. I was reading this post that Tyler Perry recently did. He posted this really old video of Oprah Winfrey. She had a little short afro.
Yes.
She was a news anchor at a news station, and this is before she was, more widely known. And he said he called her and asked her, "Did you know?"
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that he meant, did you know back then what we now know about you, that you'd be Oprah?
Mm.
And her response was just spot on. She said, "I didn't know the future, but I knew who held the future. And I knew that where I was wasn't where I would stay." I was like, you better
Woo!
preach. So
Yes.
I kind of want to start off with that same question for
Mhm.
you, starting from the beginning and looking at where you are now. Did you know, April, that you would be in a position like you are in today?
It's funny that you mentioned Oprah, and we're going to get a little bit into that a little bit later with my experience with Oprah. As a young girl, I never imagined or even thought about becoming an attorney. you
Wow.
know um and of course at that age you don't know what a business coach is. you know
Right, right.
but what's interesting is I always wanted to be a teacher, and so I find myself doing that, and I
Yeah.
knew that I had these gifts in me that allowed for me to relay information to someone and for them to get it. And,
Yeah.
so I recognized that very on, even being a young girl doing tutoring and things of that nature. I'm like, this is what I love. And I had some amazing teachers. So I'm like, oh, I want to be like you. But the same gifts that operated in me then that God put in me have been developed, and they're showing through what I'm doing
Yeah.
now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is such a good point. Where did your motivation come from to pursue law school?
Not only did I not have a desire, but I was fearful.
Mm,
Because although I had been told I was smart, and
yeah.
I knew I had some intelligence, I was fearful of being doctor, attorney. Like those are like coveted,
Yes.
positions or like things that you aspire to be, but I never saw myself as
Mm.
that. I was always intimidated by that idea.
Wow.
But what happened was, as I grew into womanhood, and for those who don't know, I was a teenage mom, and I got married early, and so my life began very quickly. My adult life
Yeah.
began very quickly for me, so I had to step into the corporate world. I had to step into working very early, and so when I was in corporate America and I got to a point where I had been the supervisor, I had been the trainer, I had been in technical support, I had done these things, but I wasn't satisfied. And I'm like, how am I making a difference? I saw a young Black woman like myself who was going to law school. At the time, I had just finished my degree in psychology, but I was thinking, I don't want to sit behind a desk. I love the human mind and how it works and to study that, but I don't want to sit behind a desk and hear about people's problems all day. I was like, well, what can I use this degree for? How can I use it? And so I began to literally Google. And what's interesting is law kept coming up. And as I saw someone else do it and go to law school, and she was a single mom at the time, and I was just really inspired by her journey. And I'm like, wow, if she can do it, well, maybe I can too. But seeing someone who looked like me, it was very inspiring. And so I thought, well, you know what? If I'm going to be great, let me do the greatest thing that I could think of to put myself in the position to be able to inspire other young women who look like me.
I applaud you for that, for having the courage to do that. And I know that must have been scary. You've done a lot of, seemingly scary things in your life. And one of those was starting a business as well. What was the scariest thing about that?
So before I tell you about that, the scary part of the process, this is where I'm going to insert my Oprah story, okay? Because it's very, very relevant. So in 2011, I believe, Oprah had just ended the Oprah show. She was sort of transitioning into another space. During that time, I had a dream that I met Oprah. I had an opportunity to ask her a question, but I woke up before I could ask the question. Here I am, and I don't know what to ask this woman. Yeah. This woman who have blazed the trail for so many Black women, who has set the standard of pulling yourself up and, being in this position where she came from nothing, where she's this conglomerate, right? I woke up and was distraught because, of course, in my mind, it was real life. So I'm like, what would I ask her? I thought about how in that journey, she had to have experienced some level of fear, going into a place that nobody like her has been before. And I actually emailed her and her team. I'm like, when I meet you, I'm going to have my question ready. Being a stalker or whatever you want to call me, I didn't care. Okay. A year later, I actually won tickets to her live class. And because she had ended the show, I had no way of knowing she was going to start this whole new thing or what have you. The show was being taped in Houston, Texas. I grabbed a friend, or actually my sister-in-law, and we flew to Houston, Texas to be at this show. The Lord had it so where the live event happened just as it did in my dream. Oh my God. And I got into this auditorium where she was, and out of all of the thousands of people in that auditorium, I was seated in the front row in the center seat of that auditorium. And I was literally looking at Oprah like this.
Wait. So at what point do you stop and be like, yo, this is crazy?
Listen, throughout the whole thing, I was like, this is crazy. This is not happening. And as I'm telling my my sister-in-law, she was like, we both were baffled because I had told her the dream. Yeah. I was like, this is like, I cannot believe I'm literally walking in my dream right now. So we get to the end of this show. I'm like, I'm going to ask her this question. I don't know how I'm going to get her attention or what have you. And again, God made it so she was actually shaking the hands of the people who were in the front row.
Oh my gosh.
Let me tell you, I almost yanked that lady's hand off, okay? So I pulled on her. I said, Oprah, I literally had a dream about this a year ago. And I said, can I please just ask you one question? And she said, sure. My sister-in-law was recording the whole thing.
Wow.
I have a recording of it and I put it on YouTube or what have you. But let me tell you what she said. And that's why it's so pivotal for this conversation. I asked her, how did you overcome fear when you're trying to walk in your purpose? And before I could even finish the sentence, she began to talk to me eye to eye for about 3 minutes, just straight giving me knowledge. She said, The first thing is that you know that it's fear, and that's good. That is good that you know that that's what it is. She
Wow.
said, but the reason why you're fearful is because you're trusting in yourself. Oprah is by no means a spiritual leader in my life,
Right.
but
Yes.
she has gotten to this place, and I was very interested to hear what she had to say, and God used her in that moment to speak something in my life that I needed. And she said, you have to believe in something that's greater than yourself. You're fearful because you need more faith. Your faith has to be strengthened. She said, because your little old self can't do nothing, you know. She said, but with God, and then I finished her sentence. I was like, all things are possible. She said, yes, it really is. And
You
God wants more for you.
this lady.
A whole conversation. Like, can you imagine? I'm looking at her eyes. I'm like looking at her eyelashes batting, and I'm looking at her hair and the shininess of her hair. I'm like, I could not believe it. And I was in the moment. She was in the moment, but in my mind, I'm thinking, this is nuts to me. And it took for me to even go back and watch the video, and I just, bawled. Okay. That was before I went to law school. I had actually skipped my law school exam, my entrance test to go to Houston. And, and so when she gave me that information, I was like, oh, you don't have to tell me anything else. I remember taking the step forward and saying, you know what, scared or not, I'm going to do it. Transitioning over into your question about overcoming those fears in business, it was the same thing. So there's always going to be this fear of the unknown, right? That's the kind of fear that I always face in anything. But I've known from my history with God that all things are possible. Hey, it doesn't matter what happens. All things work together for good to them who love God and who are the called according to his purpose. Right. If I know I'm walking in his purpose and I love God, it doesn't matter what I do. It's going to turn out for my good anyways.
Some women feel like there's more, but they don't necessarily know how to pursue that.
I'm not just going to give you the, standard answer of seeking God. I hope that's what we're doing. I hope, there was a time where I wasn't. So let me just preface that. So number one, you're seeking the creator who created you. He knows what's in you, right? To be able to bring that out. That's number one. Yeah. But how you can naturally identify those things are the things that you do easily that others don't do as easily. And then using and giving them away and being of service to someone else. Because at the end of the day, if what you're doing is not serving someone, or if it's not for the greater good or the greater purpose or God's will or the kingdom, it's not purposeful. You're not in alignment with purpose. Yeah. Unless you are using what he has given you to serve. And let me just say this, okay? Can we just get a little transparent, a little real for a minute, okay?
Yes, let's get real.
I'm so glad that God has graced me to be able to go to law school and get my degree and have Esquire at the end of my name. I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. But when I tell you I could care less about it, and I mean that, because the titles mean absolutely nothing to me if it's not in alignment with my purpose. Wow. If I cannot use this Esquire to do something or to impact, to serve another woman, to help her build her business, to help her build the kingdom through her business, then I don't want it. I don't need it. I really could care less, to be honest. And so I think that we need to put ourselves in a humbling position, no matter what our titles are, no matter how great we've climbed the mountain, because you didn't do it anyways. God allowed you.
Oh God. Oh God.
So what do I look like getting up to the mountain and not acknowledging him or not doing what he's called me to do?
Right. This is so needed, because a lot of women are in that place where they're trying to tap into that mission. They're trying to step out and do what God has purposed them to do. So thank you so much, April, for this very, very, very insightful talk. He was definitely speaking through you.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.